You're watching Honoring the Armor podcast, hosted by Coach Nikki M.
Friends and family, welcome to another inspiring and engaging episode of Honoring the Armor, the podcast for everybody, fathers, sons, mothers, daughters, and everyone in between. Today, I'm so excited because I have my esteemed guest, Mr. Armani, here with me. And I cannot wait to, first of all, find out what he thought when he was asked to join me today. What was he thinking when that request came in? And I think that he's here to share such a unique perspective with us on our topic of having parents who are withholding or armored in some way. So first of all, let me thank you, Armani, for joining me today.
I appreciate it. It was my pleasure. I was honored when I first heard that I was going to be able to have an opportunity to talk with you. So I hope my information, my shared information or experiences are helpful.
I'm sure they will be. I'm so sure they will be. So when you heard, right, because I think you heard it kind of in pieces and parts, right, of the journey that I'm on and what I'm doing. And when you heard that you were going to be asked to come here, when you understood
Right.
what we were going to be talking about, what did you think?
I thought it was interesting because of the topic and the whole armor part of that, and so I was looking forward to not just sharing but hearing others as well. So I look forward to following with the journey and constantly hearing other people as well, because armor to one might be a positive,
Yes.
and someone you usually think of that as a protecting something, but it might be protecting them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I love that. So then we're going to dig in.
all right, I'm ready.
So talk to me about your experience growing up of your parents and whether or not you experienced your mom or your dad in a way that you could see that they were wearing armor.
Well, I know they were. Both of them. I think that was how they were raised, and so particularly if I'm starting with my mother, there was an expectation of you. I want to say probably having the answers, and so I think that my mother wanted to make sure that we received the answers from her in a way that was not that was serious. Let's put it like that. That's serious. And on my father's end, on my father's side, I think there was, if I'm being honest, insecurity that he had. My mother would have been considered the person on the other side. He was on the other side of the tracks, and my mother being someone that he probably looked up in a certain way, so he wanted to make sure he carried himself a certain way as well. And so I think for him, he had a certain face with us, and later on as he got sick, I saw another person.
And so you said that your father's armor, you seem like it came from really his insecurity, right?
It would have been his insecurity on. It would definitely been his insecurity as far as being around my mother to a certain degree, because that was a certain, I guess, looked at him. He looked at her. I would say, if he's not here, but I'm not scared now. That he was given a certain face because this is what she said we were supposed to do, and he went with that. But my father again was from a very rigid, stoic kind of father himself, and they were pretty much, you just do what I do. You don't say nothing. You just do what I do, and certain things. So yeah, and that wasn't him. So that was his armor, because he was just a very emotional, nice somebody else. He was giving a face up until a few years before he passed.
I'm going to just take a step back, and I want to circle back to your mom for a minute. Talk a little bit more about where your mother's armor came from, because I feel like your father's armor is so clear to me, and that was his upbringing. First of all, it started there. And then it started with he needed to like be seen a certain way when he got with your mom. And
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Talk to me about more about where your mother's armor came from.
My mother was a teacher, and so she felt that there was a certain, I would think, way that you're supposed to carry yourself. And so, and I think that was from her background as well. Her mother and father, there were certain expectations you were supposed to take care of and do, and there was no play on that. There was, she wasn't a mean person, but if she looked at you, you took that seriously, and she backed it up sometimes. But hers came from her background, and it was carried on to make sure that we took it seriously, and it helped us in our path in life. And it was no room for that play. It was no room for, as much as she was nice, I won't paint a picture she was a nice person, but she made sure that you saw nothing but strength. There was even issues, being transparent, even issues as far as relationship, as far as her and my father, even at some points. And she made sure that we saw only a certain look.
If you can journey back in your heart and your mind to maybe childhood Armani, right? So not teenager or early adult, but childhood. Did you have any awareness that there was armor there? Or were you like, these are my parents, this is how they are, this is what it is?
Yeah, everything I'm sounding all deep on now is because I'm older.
I love it.
anything before that, it was strictly, that was all I knew. And I was blessed because I had two parents. And so
Absolutely.
As I went on, saw that a lot of people didn't even have that. So all I knew was, this is what you're supposed to do. All I knew was that all the things later on that she shared just seemed like that was life. That was what, I just knew that you were scared if you didn't. And so, but I appreciate it. Because, again, I knew nothing else. I knew nothing else. And I don't want to jump the gun on any other questions, but
I'm going to follow you.
No, I was just going to say with that, because I knew nothing else, I think they did an excellent job. I think there's a time to, at least from my experiences, a time to show the human side and a time to be a parent. And I guess what I see with society and everything else, I know it's a thin line.
Yeah.
And then particularly on the child, because you want to be able to, understand the child and understand where they're going. But in my particular case, if I would have seen anything else, I think I would took advantage of those, of the anything but what I saw, and it gave foundation. Again, later on, I found out obviously that that a parent, they don't know what the heck they're doing either, and so they're guessing as they're going, and so I'm glad they guessed right.
Oh, I love that. I also heard you say that if they had been too permissive, you would have been out here in the streets doing the wrong thing. Yeah,
I would have lost my mind. I had already lost my mind, so I can't imagine. So I say that to say this, and it makes me understand other people from other perspectives. I had an excellent mother and father. What I call excellent, even in their imperfections, were perfect for me.
Right.
And so, and I still did stupid stuff. So I can't imagine if they had given or shown less than what they showed. I probably wouldn't be on this couch. So, I think that I needed that, and more importantly, I'm glad that they didn't give me the emotional other side and all the other things they were really going through and everything else. Personally.
I'm going to get back to that because I want you to talk a little bit more about that. But tell me when you gained the awareness, because now you got a lot of knowledge and wisdom about what was going on then. But when did you first, because I know you didn't know, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old Armani. When did you gain the awareness that, you know what, these people are more than just my parents. My mother is like a woman. My father is a man. When did that awareness start to really kind of rise up inside of you?
Mine's a little different. My mother was sick. My mother had Crohn's disease, and she was ill a great amount of my life. So I saw her as a strong woman despite everything she was going through. So I had a whole different perspective on people in pain and things like that, because when I say she masked it, that she made sure her running thing to me was always, I got your back.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know that until later on. When she got real sick, to answer your question, is when I saw the other sides, because she started showing me the emotional her in the hospital when we had one-on-one conversations, saying that she was tired of being this, everybody saying that you're strong and everything else. And she said she was tired of hearing people say these things, and then she shared other emotions. So I saw it as she wore down. And I like to say, after my mother passed, for my father, seeing him differently was when it went from, I knew that she was the rock for the house, me and my brother. I knew that we needed her. I didn't know he needed her as much as when she left.
Wow.
And so when she left, this man that I saw as 6'4", 2, whatever, became small to me.
Yeah.
And he needed her. And so I saw the other side to him as well.
It's almost like that was your realization that, wait a minute, before he was my father, he was her husband.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. Then I saw them as a couple. Then I didn't see them as my parents. I saw them as a couple. That's, to be honest with you. Then I saw pictures. I've always seen the pictures, but they were my parents.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I saw pictures as them as an attractive couple. I saw them as human. And so before then, I think I saw them as just my parents.
Yeah.
And there's no just to that. So no, not just my parents, but as my parents. So
That's wonderful. I feel like you really, I think, saw their armor not as like something that you wanted to try to like break through, but really you saw it as like, I'm so happy to have this gift of protection. And it was something that you were happy and I think maybe felt nurtured that they were wearing that armor.
absolutely. I'm very aware that some people having the armor, there's the disconnect with the parent and the child. In my case, not that I needed it for my own personal, but I just think the way they went about doing it, it was perfect for me. But again, I'm not naive to know that there's some people reaching for love, reaching for different things, and they don't get it because the other person didn't know how to share it, and the layers of that carrying on. In my particular case, maybe because my mother was a teacher. I don't know. I saw some crazy teachers in my life, so maybe not. But from that, I think that she nurtured, but showed strength.
Yeah.
And with that, she used it as a way in which to instill. I still hear her. I still her. I can't say certain words just as no matter how old I am, and I'm proud of that. Because of the respect and what they put from a parent, not a friend thing. And again, yet I was blessed to be able to experience, whether it be from them being in the hospital or not, both sides. So
I love that. I love that. I think that I'm sure that the experience of really being blessed by that armor, I don't think that you're the only one. And so I think that it is a unique experience, but I don't think that it's just like your individual experience. And I really appreciate you for recognizing that, like you said, like there are some people where that armor created disconnection, right? And they wanted to, or really needed to feel more connected to their parents and to know them as individual people. And that armor kind of was like in the way of that. So I appreciate you acknowledging that.
no, I definitely. I mean, again, like I said, I'm blessed. I think growing up, I think I only have one other friend that had two parents.
Yeah.
And everyone else either had a parent that passed or the parent was never around. And with that, talk about the layers that they went through, and then particularly with if it being a mother, some of the friends of mine, the mother had to be strong and not be a child or a kid or because someone were young. And so I've heard stories and lived vicariously through other people and other things. So definitely understand it.
Absolutely. And I know we talked specifically about where, the origin of your parents' armor, your dad's armor, the origin of your mom's armor. So, like zooming out, talk to me about some societal and cultural factors of why parents, not specifically your parents, but maybe generally parents might adopt that armor and withhold aspects of themselves.
Well, I can only speak on my end. I don't have kids either. And at this point, at this age, I'm good. But
Okay.
but as far as, I think that's interesting because from a society standpoint, it's just a scary world. And again, a parent doesn't know, there's no class for it. And so going into how I want to parent might be affected by one, they're maybe not old enough when they started, and seeing society now. I'm personally a believer that everybody should have an armor, in some way, shape, or form, but you have to know whatever you went through that you experienced that was not the greatest, know how to use it just to teach, not to beat. And,
Oh, I love that.
and, from that standpoint, because again, from a flip side, I see more, particularly me dealing with young adults now with my job or even kids or young parents. I see the laws allowing kids to do whatever the heck they want to do. I see the stripping of power with parents as well as teachers, educators. And so if you're just a friend and you don't have the armor, or you don't have this, not just showing them just the human side, I think where some people think they're gaining respect, I think they're losing a connection that from a parent, the title of parent would be. And I see that more now than ever. I'm not saying you go out there being the rock and scaring the child and everything else, but the child should know their boundaries and know that what a parent, not a friend and not the name of the person, as a human side, I think you're supposed to earn that. I don't think you're supposed to just get that. And I almost sound like that Mother Dearest thing when I said earn it, but I don't mean it in the sense of, you're fighting for their love.
Right.
I'm saying it more in the sense of gaining respect from who you are as a person.
Yeah.
From that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now you let us know that not only do you not have children, but he said he was good, y'all. So he's not having them. Okay.
Very.
He's like, at this age, I'm good.
Very.
But just because you don't have children and you have not raised and reared children does not mean that you don't have wisdom, right? When it comes to some of the things that we're talking about. If someone came to you, be it a mother or father, it could be a couple, right? And said that, hey, Armani, I heard something you were talking about, and, we definitely are showing up as parents armored, and that's creating some disconnection. We want to maybe change that. And we want to parent, but still be connected. What is something that you would offer them?
I think that listening to their kids and not just one that had to running with the title of parent without knowing who their child is would help on how you go about how you're going to parent the kids. I think a lot of armor has nothing to do with the kids. I think it has more to do with how they were raised or what they think they're supposed to do. But the disconnect is they're not thinking about the kids. Right. They're just thinking about this is how, again, they didn't take that class. Or if they took the class, they took it from the wrong people because they were raised by something that carried over.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing would be, again, listening and to the kids, maybe the verbal and nonverbal, the things, who are your kids and how they best receive, because how do you pass a message on if the people can't hear it? And so the same with the parenting, I would think that, if you're just talking and you're talking at them and they can't receive the message, then you're failing. And so there would have to be some way you have to learn who you're sending the message to.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that your parents were boy parents.
Yes.
So you did not have the pleasure, unlike my brother, of growing up with sisters. But you and I have talked about this a little bit, and I've shared my perspective that the impact, whatever that impact has been, of growing up with parents who, show up armored and maybe withhold pieces of themselves from their kids, that impact seems to be different on sons versus daughters. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I don't have kids, but I do know. I'm around, and I have a lot of cousins from a female standpoint, and who are searching and wanting love from their parents and not getting that from the mother, per se, the daughter-mother connection. Particularly where there's never enough, where they're working to be. I'm picturing particularly some of my other family members. So I got to watch who's listening now. Just joking.
Yeah,
But
don't say anybody's name.
Well, I won't say the names, but even the thought of the people they would know, but it really has a lot to do with seeing from a guy perspective. I think the guys, there's a whole different dynamic. My expectations were probably started after you get out of high school. Make sure as a man, this whole male perspective where the protecting of the daughter started much younger. You don't do this, which also made them working hard and this harder, sterner person that they experienced. And so it's a big difference from a male and a female. I probably would have ran away from home
If you had to grow up a
if
girl,
I grow up a girl. Thank God the name
Like,
Sandy is not
forget
connected
this,
to.
y'all can keep it.
Yeah, because again, it's a protection mode. I even know it. Jumping off for a second, even knowing it as a family member of females in my family, I mean, my armor stood out just talking to my female family members to protect and be a certain way. And they didn't know me because I gave them a certain falseness. So even like I said, from the mother-daughter standpoint, I know particularly every one of my family members that were daughters that were reaching out to their mothers seemed like they never received the love that they thought that they never received the love from the mother. And it's funny because the mother always wanted the daughter to know that they loved them. And yet there was a hard connection with that, even to this day.
I don't disagree with the thing you've said. Being an adult daughter myself. Right. And I think I'm just going to call it a theory behind that. And I think that it's based on, what people say that mother sons, but raise daughters.
Right. Yeah.
And so when you think about mothering someone, when you think about mothering your son, nurturing goes into mothering, right?
Right.
Now, when you say, I'm raising you, that's different from nurturing. That's teaching, right?
Right.
And so that's protecting.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm. And so sometimes in that raising and that teaching and that protecting, the nurturing is not as plentiful.
True.
It does not raise up as much. And so, and I'll speak for myself, I was definitely raised versus mothered.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really drilled into me to always be able to take care of myself, always do this, always do that, right? Always make my own money so I can make my own decisions, right? This. And so that mothering was not reserved for me. And so for me, there was a part of me who, as I was coming of age, right? And I'll say really, really beyond 18, 19. So in my mid and late 20s, there was like this realization that, first of all, my mother was a person, okay?
Right.
Because before that, she was just my mama.
Just mother.
Right. She was not a person. She was my mama. That was her. That was what she was there for, to be my mother. But there was this, like, I was like struck with the realization that she was a woman and that she had a life before me that had nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to know, well, what was that? And who were you? And who are you? Right? But I had already been raised.
Right.
And so I think there is this, and you and I talked about that mother-daughter relationship is complex and it's unique. And there was this like, yes, but I've raised you, be gone. You know what I mean? Not that she didn't want to have anything to do with me, but she felt like my job is done and we don't need to know each other in that way. And I was like, but we do though, because for me, and I like when you talk about your female cousins, you talk about the love. For me, there was like, that was that us back then, but this is the us now, right? The two adult women who get to love each other and get to know each other now. And so that was very, and still is very important to me.
It makes sense. It's funny when we're talking about the whole armor. As I say mother, father, I wasn't raised mother, father. If they were here now, I would say mommy and daddy.
Right.
And so with pride, no matter how old I was. And so that kind of fits again with the parent title in comparison to the other side. That was their title to me.
Yeah.
So when you were saying that, that's all I think. I did say mother, and I probably would have ran if she would have walked in here. I would have ran a lot of reasons.
Right.
But if she said that. So no, I get it. Like I said, I was blessed. I was definitely blessed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, we had a couple things to do, but I want to do some rapid reflections with you.
All right.
So I'm going to ask you to finish a couple sentences for me.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to use 5 to 7 words or however many words suit you.
All right.
So the first sentence is, the man that I used to be thought
that he was somebody, and I realized that he's more than somebody.
Okay. You might have taken my next one, but my next one was, the man that I am now knows
that he has a lot of growing to do, but he's thankful that he has the opportunity to wake up to do it.
All right. Okay. The son that I used to be thought
that he knew everything.
Okay.
And that wasn't 5, but that's a strong one, right?
Okay.
He knew everything.
All right.
Yeah. And he learned later that he was blessed that that he had angels around him.
So is that what you would say, the son that you are now, this is what you know now, is that you're blessed, you got angels around you?
Oh, I am. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I have, that's a whole nother conversation, but I think that my mother and father obviously are my angels, but I think that I'm never alone. I think I'm been a part of a village.
Yeah.
And the village that I'm not even aware of. It's not even built around who I grew up with. It's people that they're just waiting on me to realize they're there.
Wow.
So.
Absolutely. This is our last one. Mother is another word for, and you cannot say the word love.
Mother is another word for, well, as you said, word for my existence.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
Now, I know you have, you got a lot of stuff you're working on.
I do.
But I want to just create some space and give you an opportunity at a high level to talk about your podcast that you're working on.
Okay. It is called Relevant Men. It is uncut, uncensored dialogues between males. It would be something where I would say we are giving the male cheat sheet, but being able to express ourselves where men don't do that and put it in a way where not just men can understand and grow from each other, but to be strong representations of what we feel relevant is all about. And so it would be very interesting. It's definitely going to have a perspective that covers relationships, the inner boy, child, the decisions that we make, the yin and yang differences, and more importantly, we want to grow from it and strengthen the dialogue between men.
Absolutely. Now, we'd be here all day if I asked you, Armani, why do you think men don't really talk? We'd be here all day, so I'm not going to ask you that.
Right.
But I do want to know where the idea, I'm not even going to say the idea of your podcast, but the purpose of getting men together to have these conversations. Why was that important for you?
Because I saw when I was younger, when I was much younger, my father on Sundays would meet up at a coffee shop with gentlemen that I thought were grown. They were grown men in my mind. It's probably just because their names were grown. I didn't know anything else. But I thought it was interesting that they talked. And that was the only time that I saw men really talking. I have friends that that we hang out and we talk, but very few of us, as maybe 5 or 6 or 7 guys together, are going to give our truth. We give false faces. And so I knew what I wouldn't share, and I wanted to be able to expose that. So when COVID first hit, I initially wanted to have an opportunity to have guys fellowship and discuss things and be able to be transparent. Later on, it went on, and the relevant part became more important.
Right.
And that was because I wanted to see challenge men after we talk. Where do you fit in your life? And what is the difference that we saw as a male and a man? And that emphasis on relevant, making a difference, not just living life and saying you're here, but what are you doing to be relevant? And so I wanted to make sure that component was brought into it. So first from my father, but then I wanted to carry that on. Ultimately, I want to hear well done, so I have to have a resume, and I'm working really hard to make sure that I hear this.
All right. All right. I love that you said, like, I just thought these men were grown because they had grown names. So I'm like picturing, like, oh, you had some, Bartholomew's and some
there were
Arthurs.
unique names. There were some unique names. And so they all, it just seemed, it's funny when you see movies and you see the older people coming together. I think that's so sharp. I think anything when you have built relationships that carry on
Yeah.
is powerful. And those stories are powerful, and it carries on your legacy. And so that's what I want to do.
Excellent. I want to, first of all, I want to thank you for spending this time with me today
Thank you.
and for sharing your perspective. I think, you and I talked about people don't agree, when we talked about your podcast, that maybe people aren't going to agree, but I guess really progressing and perspective sharing only requires open mind and respect. It does not require people to come together, right. In agreement. So I really want to thank you also for, I'll say, the courage and the commitment of having the conversation in your podcast.
Thank you.
Because when you mentioned the pandemic, what came to my mind was the suicide rate for males that skyrocketed during the pandemic. Many of whom were dealing with things that they had not told their spouses about, and certainly not their male friends about, and they were really suffering in silence.
That armor.
Absolutely. So I think it's such an important conversation, and I honor your courage and your commitment to having that conversation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is in reverse. I'm honored to be able to share even my thoughts here, but more importantly, again, be a part of something that you're doing. And this is what it's all about: creating dialogue, communication, and you're going to help a lot of people.
I hope so.
I'm sure you will.
That's my purpose.
I'm definitely you will.
Dee taught me, don't say desire, talk about your purpose.
Yeah.
So that's my purpose.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you all, friends and family, for joining us. We are so excited to have you. Remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can follow me on IG at Coach Nicole. We love having you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for watching Honoring the Armor podcast. We're releasing new episodes every other week. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. Like and subscribe so you don't miss out.